Icon Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again we are back with Vijana Vital Voices show, a show that brings you stories of some of the most inspiring young people you will ever come across. Young people doing amazing things in the political space, in the social space, doing businesses that are transforming the lives of young people. Remember that to be a guest on this show, all you need to be is young, below the age of 35. 2, be doing something that goes over and above your daily, what you do for on a day-to-day basis to put money on or food to the table. So basically you're doing something beyond, over and above your work. You're doing something to empower the society. And we are the #1 most inspirational show in Kenya, and I know that I am not lying when I tell you that I, Ruth Ambogo, as a host, is bringing you conversations that inspire greatness. Remember to follow us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, Icon Radio KE, and on our website www.iconradio.co.ke. Today's guest, Odede. Should I just start by introducing you, or what do we do?
Do it like you always do.
I should do it like I always do it. Well, we all know that we are in the month of celebrations, parties, and party after party. But something that is very unique about this month, Meshack, and I believe you will agree with me, is that a lot of people do charity work during this month. A lot of companies do what we call CSR. A lot of people say we are going to take food to children's homes. You find families donating clothes to children's homes. And basically people are giving back to the society. Yeah. And that is why you are a guest today on this show, because we want to talk about giving back. We want to talk about having a heart of service. We want to talk about looking at yourself and saying, what can I do? How can I be a steward of what it is that I have, or what it is that God has given me? My guest today is called Meshack Odede. He is the chairperson of an organization called VIO Society Kenya, and I will not even go into explaining what VIO is. You will tell us what VIO is. Take it away, please. Please introduce yourself as I if there's a part of it of nimesahau, labda we ni kiongozi mahali. You could be an MCA somewhere, or you could be vying for governor and we don't know. So just introduce yourself properly.
Okay, thank you. Viewers and listeners, my name is Meshack Odede. Vile Malisafi amewambia. Of course, pengine hakuwa amewambia tunamuita Malisafi.
Uko nje.
Yes, I'm chairing VIO Society Kenya. In full is called Volunteer Involving Organization Society.
Yes.
This is an umbrella body, Ruth. This umbrella body brings organizations who are engaging volunteers in whichever space.
Yes.
Volunteers are all over the country and globally.
Yes.
But now our agenda is creating or streamlining this sector of volunteers, and also to see what are volunteers actually doing that gives service to the nation. So apart from that, of course I have worked. When people see you in the volunteer space
they
a
think
lot,
you are not earning.
They think all you are doing
is helping people and helping people,
which is good.
Yes.
But I've worked before. I'm a community development practitioner, and I have worked before for organizations, international organizations like APHRC, African Population and Health Research Center.
Yes.
I've also worked for PSI. PSI is Population Services International, before it became PS Kenya, before they localized. Localization came at the time we moved as a country to lower middle income. And when you move as a country to lower middle income, it means the global funding, which usually come for basically the health sector, is going to other countries which cannot fund their health budget.
So
when you move to lower middle income from lower, it means
lower
your government can now fund
sustain
their
itself.
health budget 100%.
Yes.
So that those funds that come from the global kitty goes to countries which are struggling.
Yeah.
So those are the times when we lost the jobs, because
there was no money to employ.
Exactly.
Yes.
The organization could not now get all those monies that were coming to support the health budget and health programs.
Yes.
So they moved to countries like Burundi and others which are struggling.
Yes.
As to whether we were really middle income economy, I don't know. That one, our statisticians and our
the ones who can tell us,
and the government will tell
yes,
us.
but however,
for ground,
yes.
You also had that time when Jubilee got into power, and then a few years later, I think 2-3 years, we were declared like a middle-income economy.
Yes,
you heard about
yes,
that.
I've heard
Those
about
are the
that.
effects that came.
So now the more we keep climbing up the skills,
the more we
the more we
cannot
lose
get some
funding.
grants. Yeah.
And yet the reality on the ground is that,
Says
you know, that
different,
people
right?
are struggling.
Yeah.
It is that
Yeah.
healthcare sector is really struggling, you know.
Yes.
It is that our own budget cannot sustain itself for,
Yeah.
you know,
So
all
if-
the problems
if you
and
move-
programs we have.
If you move that direction, then we keep losing those fundings to the countries which are still struggling. Because
Yeah.
ni nyinyi mnatengeneza hiyo data kama gava mnasema sasa we think we can sustain ourselves. So those are the days we lost those jobs, and I started considering this sector. At that time I was
So
running.
that was the inspiration behind VIO.
Yeah, at that time I was running a small community-based organization in
Yes.
Ruaraka called Progressive Volunteers.
Yes.
Progressive Volunteers came about the period of post-election
Violence.
violence
Yes.
in 2008, when UNV Kenya office wanted to support the
Please, what is UNV?
United Nations Volunteers Kenya
Unajua
office.
ukisema hizi mavitu sahii usiangushe tu EGH,
Yes, yes.
CBC.
People
We
will
want
not
to
know
know what
that.
you're talking about.
Yes,
Yes.
so when the violence broke out
Yeah.
in early 2008,
Yes.
the organizations were trying to support where they can, and places like Korogocho, Mukuru, Kibera, the slums are usually hotspots, and people lose their daily livelihood because mama mboga hawezi kuwa kwa barabara during violence.
Yes.
So UNV Kenya, United Nations Volunteers Kenya, wanted to support these vulnerable communities, and that is because I was already working in Korogocho and Mukuru and these slums through the organization I mentioned, African
Progressive,
Population
yeah.
African Population and Health Research Center.
Yes, yes.
So I knew the space very well and the Vijana around. So I quickly got this Vijana because you know, UNV or United Nations Volunteers are not in the community every day. They have what we call implementing partners like CBOs and youth groups
Yes.
who implement their
CBOs
programs.
are community-based organizations.
Yes. Now, because I was running this, they reached out and we organized as a community-based organizations who are there every day to see how we can support distribution of food and all that. And now bringing them together, supporting the community, their own community. And then when the violence ended, they were now looking at me like, so
Give us the direction.
now what do we do?
Kiongozi, tunaenda wapi?
Tunaenda wapi from here?
Yes.
And that is how they joined Progressive Volunteers, and
So
they
these
became,
small CBOs
yes,
all joined Progressive Volunteers.
those youth groups
Yes,
joined
yes.
the CBO called
Progressive Volunteers. Yes.
And then now, because Progressive Volunteer are community-based, had worked perfectly with United Nations Volunteers, an international or a national outfit at that level of UN. Now the idea came, why can't we just find a way of working together? Because we found ourselves working together without a structure or a formal meeting. VSO was in, Kenya Red Cross was doing their best, every organization is doing their best. And then you find all yourself in the same space.
Yeah.
Then we said, now that we have worked so well in crisis,
Yes.
when the crisis goes, should we just go back to our normal, or we should find a way of working together always? And that is how the idea of bringing all the organizations involving volunteers together under one umbrella became.
Yeah.
And we started engaging.
Yes.
So we started saying,
yeah.
from here we need to engage the government. And we started engaging.
Because for a long time, volunteerism had been removed
Kila
from,
mtu anawak peke yake.
disconnected from government, because
Yes.
people are saying we are coming in to do what government has been unable to do.
Something close to that.
Yes.
But also, you find in the same space, kila mtu anawak peke yake. Red Cross kivyake,
Then
VSO
mnajipata,
kivyake,
you even
UNV.
find yourselves in one space.
Sometimes you
Yes.
duplicate
Yes.
what the other organization has done.
Yes.
But when you work together, you know if our partner VSO is doing this, what is remaining or they are lacking is this. If you are providing water and we are providing food and they are providing masomo,
Who
then
else
we
will
have a whole
provide?
community.
Yes, yes.
Who else will provide healthcare?
Housing.
Then now we have somebody doing healthcare, somebody doing education, somebody doing food.
So that it's coordinated
humanitarian,
efforts.
Then the community is getting support from all corners in every aspect that they require.
Yes.
But if you don't coordinate, then you will find all of us are
You're
bringing
duplicating
water.
roles.
So they have a lot of water,
but they
with
don't
no
have
healthcare,
food.
no food,
No,
housing,
zero
and
housing.
everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Before we even continue, and because I think the concept of a volunteer is sometimes misunderstood. I would like us to take a short commercial break, short music break. Remember to follow us on www.iconradio.co.ke, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, kila kitu TokTik, what hizo zote, Snapchat.
Yes.
We are available on Icon Radio KE. Remember to follow us on all platforms. And my name is Ruth Ambogo. This is hashtag Vijana Vital Voices Show. What we are having is conversations that inspire what?
Greatness.
Good.
Thank you.
Icon Radio.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back again to Vijana Vital Voices Show, the #1 top inspirational show by young people, for the young people, with young people in it, hosted by a young person, Ruth Ambogo. And today the show or the discussion is about volunteerism. That, we are in the month where people volunteer, where people give of their time, people give of they go to children's homes, they go to homes for the elderly, and they give their time, their resources. But what does this all mean? Who truly is a volunteer? That's the discussion we're going to have in this segment, where we just want to understand who is a volunteer. Because I think mimi nafikirianga volunteer, Meshack, mimi nafikirianga volunteer ni ile, umemaliza shule, unatafuta, before uingie campus, unaenda unatafuta mahali tu pa kugusilia, bila kulipwa, And I remember there was a movement, a global movement for people saying pay volunteers. So I want to understand, and I want the listeners to understand truly who is a volunteer. But before we get to that, a couple of statistics. Back in 2017, the Kenya National Volunteerism Survey came up with the figures that in Kenya alone, we had at that time 13 million volunteers. Yani a third of our population ni ma-volunteer tu. Sijui kama ni watu wanalipwa ama walipwi ama they're just passionate about the society. Back in 2018 again, the United Nations released a report called the State of the World Volunteerism Report. And the numbers will shock you. That out of a possible 7 or 8 billion human beings on the earth, 970 million of them are volunteers. Meshack, hawa ni watu wanapenda tu kusaidia society ama ni watu wanalipwa ama ni watu tu wanajitolea kufanya kazi bure? Who is a volunteer?
Yeah, Ruth, it is shocking to know that that is not even the exact number. But before we get to those statistics and the numbers, to us, volunteering is a social behavior. But to people out there, it is work without pay. The people
it's
simply
gaining experience.
Yeah, people simply say, when you are working and you're not paying,
you are a volunteer.
You are not paid, you are volunteering. And you have heard these stories in the corridors of even companies and organizations, even including government. Kwani am I a volunteer here? Meaning if you're working and maybe your salary has paid, the boss has not paid you for some time,
you are a volunteer.
You're beginning to imagine,
wewe ni volunteer.
Are we volunteers here? But to us, volunteer is not.
So basically there's a negative connotation to the word volunteer.
Exactly.
Yes.
So many people who think it has something to do with money or not that makes you volunteer, it's wrong. It is a social behavior. Meaning even if I were to be appointed a governor today or a secretary general to a party and has a lot of work, I would say I want to now give 1 hour to do something for the benefit of the community, for a better world, without expectation of any monetary gain. And I'm still very much employed. As a general manager in a company would say, I will work, but every week in my schedule, I will donate 1 hour.
1 hour maybe for mentorship. To mentor a young generation.
And volunteering is not only on this manual work. It could be on your personal skills. You are an ICT
guru,
tech savvy. So you are taking 1 hour
to teach some kids,
transfer skills to another person in the community without expectation of a pay. That is volunteering. So that is what we call
But you know,
volunteering.
you see, when we started, you just said that people think a volunteer is somebody working without pay.
Yes.
Yet you people see it as a social behavior.
Yeah.
So where does that place the people who are paid, but they are volunteering? Because there was this time, I think, 2 years back,
Yeah.
when there was this huge movement,
Yes.
pay volunteers.
Yes.
Was it pay interns or pay volunteers?
Whatever they were calling it,
Yes.
the only thing I can tell you, Ruth, volunteers and pay cannot be found in one sentence.
So all
Because-
these 13 million people are people who are just happy about, they just want to serve
Let me
society.
tell you.
Ah,
There is a
Meshack.
conversation going on globally right now
Yes.
on financing volunteering.
Yes.
You know, like I said, it's not a category of a person. If I'm volunteering in your company, it does not mean that I should go without food. I should walk on foot.
Yeah.
I should not have a cloth to put on simply because I'm volunteering. What we are doing is, we don't call it pay. We say volunteer allowances or facilitation.
That's what I'm
or
talking
anything.
about, because you almost got
when
me
you
there.
say pay, this is
Yeah,
now
it
not
means
volunteering.
earning for the skills that you've given.
Exactly.
Which
That
is
is
no
now-
longer volunteer, it is work.
Once you say pay, then the term volunteering disappear, because when you're paying, it means I'm not volunteering. But you can facilitate my work as a volunteer. And I can do it both professionally and otherwise.
Yeah.
It could be a manual, it could be a professional, high-level professional. Like now in this studio, you can have a volunteer who is skilled, highly skilled, probably skilled more than any other technical person in this. But pengine anasema, I will give you my 1 hour of that skill in your studio as a volunteer.
Yeah.
But you can take care of their transport. If
Yeah.
they are on the other side of town,
You make
have
sure
to
you are
facilitate
facilitated
how
there.
do they get
How do they
here,
get here, yes.
and while they are working here, do they need some tea or transport back again?
Yes.
But there is nothing like this is your pay for the day's work.
Yeah.
It is a facilitation. So you see, like organizations like UNV, United Nations Volunteers, their volunteers are getting allowances up to $1,000 per month.
I want to volunteer for them.
Because
I'm
of
sure my
$1,000.
cameraman is reconsidering his career choices. $1,000 is 100K. No. Is it?
Yes,
100,000 Kenya shillings.
per month.
My
And
friend.
that is not pay, that is facilitation.
You know.
They have to pay rent, they have to, because it is a full time. That's why we call some formal volunteering and others
Yeah.
informal. The formal is these people who are engaged by an entity, an organization, institution, government, or whatever. That is formal volunteering. Informal is where Ruth wakes up on her own and decide, this is my community, everything here, something needs to be organized
Yeah,
here. And
yeah.
you call Jiranis and everybody you want to call, you do something, the community feels good. It belongs to no one. It's not an institution, it's not organization. And that is huge. So taking us to the numbers, you will realize that the numbers captured by the State of the World Volunteerism by the UN is formal. Those are volunteers under institutions,
Yes.
organizations, government, or whatever.
Yes.
Even our own very data in Kenya is still formal, because
Yes.
when we did that survey in 2017 together with the UN in Kenya and the government, the ministry then, Labor and Social Protection, we were just targeting to interview the member organizations and organized groups.
So,
but
by-
you can
when you say
imagine
formal,
the ones we didn't talk
So when you
about.
say formal, these are the
Yes.
ones who are under CBOs,
Under CBOs,
under NGOs.
any organized group.
Aha.
But
okay.
there is informal. You see, like in
Like
the
someone
villages,
just decides.
in the villages.
For instance, let's
Yeah.
say I have a good example
Yeah.
of some gentleman I know who is an engineer back in Vihiga
Yes.
County, where I come from.
Yes.
And he retired as an engineer.
Yeah.
But what he does is during his free time, he builds houses for widows who do not have proper housing structures.
yes.
So basically, that's an informal. He's not under any organization.
Yes.
He's an informal volunteer.
Yes.
Wow.
Another good example, just last week there was a little girl on papers, I think 10 years or so, who had built a house for a neighboring family who did not have a house in Kisumu.
Wow.
The girl just said to her aunties, nephew, cousins, and everybody
That I
who-
don't like
that
the-
it is my birthday, but don't buy me a gift.
Yeah, our neighbor.
I would love my birthday to end up with this. And that is how people volunteered some, volunteering and philanthropy is very close. Philanthropy can just be giving,
Yes.
but you're not involved.
Yes.
Then you can be a philanthropist working with volunteers. You are giving this food or these items, but then they are also volunteering their time and skills to go and do it. So somebody volunteered a skill in that village to build the house
Yeah.
because it requires some technical capacity. But then there are also people who just gave something that they needed to use as volunteers.
Wow.
That is
So,
what-
I mean, for me, this brings me to the question, and this is the question to the listeners before we take a break again. What or how do you plan to volunteer during this season? This season of giving, this season of family, this season of helping those who are vulnerable in the society. How are you as a young person planning to give back to the society? And I think that's a question that is worth answering to the listeners out there.
Yes.
We want to know, how are you gonna give to the society? And by the way, giving and volunteering is what we call stewardship, is what the Bible calls stewardship, basically being accountable to what you have, what you own that other people do not have or own. So viewers and listeners on our www.iconradio.co.ke, answer for us give us an answer as to how you plan to volunteer during this season. Remember, you can also comment on our Twitter account, Facebook account, Instagram, TikTok. How do you plan to volunteer during this season? Our accounts are Icon Radio KE. And as we take a break, remember the question is, as a young person, how do you and your friends and your family plan to volunteer during this season of giving?
Icon Radio, your number one entertainment plug.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the conversation that inspires greatness. Our hashtags are hashtag Vijana Vital Voices Show, hashtag conversations that inspire greatness. We are found on www.iconradio.co.ke. We are found on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube at Icon Radio KE. Follow us and answer the question during this season of giving. How do you plan to give? Which of your skills do you plan to donate? Or what exactly will you do to give back to the community? Now, Meshack.
Yes.
By the way, wanasemanga, mutu afanyangi tu kitu tu bure. People don't just do things for the sake of doing things. There's always, what I believe is that any story of greatness, there's always a background. There's always that story that people do not know. And Meshack, you're this colored man out there, decorated with, huge titles. People respect you. But there's a story that I think even I do not know. Tell us that story. What's the motivation?
In a minute, there's a story that the world still do not know.
Yes.
Maybe some people know in my village.
Yes.
While growing up as a young boy.
Which village is this? Mention the village.
Oh, goodness.
Your village mates should celebrate
some
you.
Village in Migori.
Yes.
Somewhere called Ranen.
Yes.
And Kaminasuo.
Ehe.
Can you say the word Kaminasuo?
Kaminasuo.
Okay.
Yes.
That village, while growing,
Yes.
it is the days when HIV was beginning to hit really, really
In
hard.
the 80s?
In the 80s.
Yes.
In our country. And there were some two ladies called Peace Corps volunteers. America has had Peace Corps volunteers for long.
Yeah.
I think
Centuries.
100 years plus.
Yes.
And Peace Corps volunteers have worked across the globe to support and make the world a better place for people. So these two ladies, one called Caroline Conrad and another called Brooke Butler, in my village. And
Kaminasuo.
Kaminasuo.
Yes.
In Ranen.
Yes.
That is Owino constituency. And then these two ladies are working on vulnerable children, OVC program. If you know, OVC was a very famous program in
Yes.
Kenya around those days.
Yes.
And so they are working with these old mamas and who have been left by their sons and daughters or daughters-in-law wamekufa wakawaacha na small children because of HIV. So these ladies comes, and then because growing up in the village, now language becomes a barrier between their work and the people, between them and the people.
And the people, yes.
So they find some kierere type of young boy. Nilikuwa
Ile
na
kierere yangu, kama ile yangu.
Kama hiyo yako tu. Nilikuwa na hiyo kierere.
Yes.
Then they realize we can communicate.
Is this in English or?
In English.
Yes.
You know, when Wazungu walks in that village, you will realize, even now, you will realize they say hi to every child they meet around.
Yes.
So as a young boy, they say hi, and I say hi back, and the conversation begins, and they realize you can actually hear them because their dialect is still American.
Yes.
And the village we are used to Ingluo.
The
one that is
the one we are speaking now.
We are saying water.
They say water.
Water. So
in fact, I should refine my English. The next time I'm coming here, I'm just gonna be saying water. You know.
So when they realize I can actually grab water,
you can get it.
Not water.
You can get it.
Not get it. Then they realize this is an asset. So personally, I still don't know.
Yes.
Then they keep asking me where my place is. They come to you. You know Wazungu, the way they behave.
Yeah.
They'll come to your place. We have a grass-thatched house.
Yes.
Sometimes when it rains,
it falls.
It is, inside and out is the same.
Yes.
you just don't know whether you are inside or you are out. But they are here because of this kind of communication. Then you keep telling them, for a boy, it is nice to hang around Wazungu, you know. So we
then
keep
the whole community knows huyu ni yule kijana wa Wazungu. Mtoto wa Wazungu.
Because we are just teenagers.
How old were you at this point?
Unatesa, wewe unahang na mademu Wazungu. They were young ladies, by the way.
Yes.
You know Wazungu wanasoma mapema. So if you take a Form 2 here, the same age, on the other side, ni kama mtu ako
university college, ama ako college.
Yeah, ama close to finishing.
Yes.
So when they are here, they are actually like your age mates,
but more
their
advanced.
Capacity is
more
not
advanced.
your capacity,
Yes.
more advanced.
Yes.
So that means, in terms of body structure and size, you are hanging out with girls, but they are Wazungu.
Yes.
So the girls in the village, while you are enjoying doing this, I was being introduced into this volunteer world because I was doing this basically. For me, I was doing it for ego. Hanging around Wazungu.
Yes.
But for them, I was volunteering to support in translation.
Because translation is also, it's actually the core component.
Was the core component.
Because without language barrier, you can achieve nothing.
Was not going to happen.
Yeah.
So they keep on looking for me every morning.
Yeah.
Are you available today?
Yes,
so
we are going
we
to
go
this
to
place.
Those places, we walk into those homes, and they speak as I translate. They speak, the mothers speak as I translate back. For me, it is just the enjoyment of walking with Wazungu.
Yes.
The man in the middle of two beautiful American girls.
Why? I hope you did not. I hope you brought one to the village.
I did not leave
Meshack.
any mark. I was still a young one.
Yes.
Then the program takes shape, and until now, the home is very big in my village, and young people who grew up through that program have finished university and are the ones working and are the
so
ones
you can actually attest
program.
to the importance of the volunteerism that you did at that time.
Their program was just 2 years.
Yes.
They were placed here for 2 years.
Yes.
After 2 years they left.
But you have seen
They
people who
left
you can say this person is this and has become this courtesy of the program.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I know you're working with government.
Yes.
And as we come to a close, I know there's a function that you did on Tuesday this week.
Yes.
Tell us about that function and who attended. What was the nature of the functions? I'm aware you awarded some people. Tell us what you were doing.
Yeah, like you said earlier, VIO Society as an umbrella body was formed to find a way of working with government.
By the way, which year was it formed?
No, VIO came all the way back in 2008.
Yes.
But we started formally working with government in 2013.
Yes.
When Jubilee just got into power.
Yes.
There are a lot of stories around there for another show.
Yes.
For the government to actually come to accept that we can work together and do these amazing things together. It was not easy, like
it was not just walking
into their office
and there's sliced bread waiting for you.
And we are VIO and we want to
embrace
work,
us.
and the work begins. There are times when the CS Kazungu Kambi threw away our papers. Weka hizi vitu za NGO huko mbali.
Yes.
I mean, for them, when Jubilee got into power,
you
you see the AfriCorg and many organizations which were against them in court.
Yeah.
So anything NGO was
bad.
And
Yes.
do not entertain them around.
Yeah.
Here. NGOs are against us. So even us, who are just mere volunteering
You
organizations,
became NGOs.
we were part of those NGOs.
Yes.
And thank God we found a way of working together up to now.
Yeah.
So our working together with government is basically to create what we call policy and legal infrastructures
Yes.
that will create enabling environment for the sector of volunteering. And so we started by understanding the state of volunteerism in Kenya, and that is why we
The
did a
report
survey
came out, yes.
to know the economic contributions of volunteer work
And
to
what
the
is
GDP.
it?
And the survey put is at 3.6% of the GDP. That
Wow.
is bigger than the health sector.
Wow.
So when government sees that this sector is really contributing big to
They
the
embraced
GDP,
you.
and even before you go to those details in the report, you can tell Ruth right now the community health volunteers across the country and the work they do. If you remove them out of the scene completely, our hospitals will choke,
Correct.
including Kenyatta National
Yes,
Hospital.
yes.
They are the facility level 1.
Yeah.
If you remove
What do they do? Give us just as a.
they are,
what
they
are the ones
they are the ones
who
taking
help midwifery?
midwifery,
Yeah.
and they are taking care of these small conditions
Yeah.
which were not supposed to be rushed to the hospitals. They can talk to you about the lifestyle to avoid. So
Yeah,
if they are
like-
removed from the scene, it will be chaotic. If you remove all the teachers who are volunteering in all our public and private schools across the
education
country,
system would
you
collapse.
can imagine.
Yeah.
So we have sectoral thematics like agriculture, education, health,
Healthcare.
and many others.
Yes.
Even in the ICT sector, there are many volunteers. So that is why we said, let us work with government to streamline,
Yes.
create legal and policy infrastructures that will make the environment
More
conducive
conducive.
for organizations
Yeah.
to grow.
Yes.
From the youth groups who are volunteering to community-based organizations to the international organizations working in our country.
Tell us briefly about the Tuesday event.
So that is why we did a policy which was adopted by cabinet in 2016, and in that policy talks about recognition of volunteers. So that is why the event of
Took
Tuesday was happening, because in the policy demands and requires that we all together recognize volunteers.
Yeah.
And
Awarding them.
Award of volunteers. So this Tuesday was 7th edition of the Voya Awards, Volunteer of the Year Awards.
Yeah.
And we do this again with the UN mandates.
Yes.
Because on 5th of December, that is every year, is International Volunteers Day, just like the Day of the Disability,
Which was
the
a
World
day before.
AIDS Day, and all
Yes,
that.
yes.
So UN has also a day for volunteers, which is 5th of December every year.
Yes.
So to celebrate and mark that day, it is done by UN and all member states, which Kenya as a government is a member state.
Yeah.
So volunteer involving organization is just a key partner in that, but it is a day celebrated both by government and UN as a mandatory.
Yeah.
So what we did after that was also to organize the usual annual Voya Awards, which is still celebrating volunteers. So while many people will be going to homes to donate and do this charity,
Yes.
we are in a season for us to recognize the volunteers
wow.
who do this.
That even motivates them to volunteer
That is
even more.
motivation.
Wow.
So the Voya Awards happened. We have people who are high level in attendance during that time.
Yeah.
The governor of Nairobi, of course, because the event, we usually do this event in different counties.
Yeah.
So this year we do the Nairobi County,
Yes.
the national event, but we have our member organizations who are doing
Small
others.
versions.
So what
where they
happens
come
is, before that, Kenya Red Cross has their awards as an organization. Then other organizations have their awards. Then they all come together under the national umbrella.
Then now
with
you
the
award
UN.
now who are the ultimate winners.
We have their awards at that level.
Wow.
So we have Professor Kivuta, the governor of
who
Makueni,
attended.
who is our goodwill ambassador for
Yeah.
volunteerism in Kenya.
Yeah.
We were moved from the Ministry of Labor
To
to
the
the
ministry.
public service,
Yeah.
now
And
the CS
gender.
and the PS.
Yeah.
We have the governor of Nairobi, who is the host.
Yeah.
And we also invited the corporates who are
Who are doing
engaging
CSR.
in CSR and other organizations like the country director, Oxfam, Dr. John Kitui,
Yeah.
Joe Ogutu, chairman, Safaricom Foundation, because corporate is also volunteering.
Yes.
They do a lot of volunteering. And we also had our CEOs of our organizations like Dr. Asha Mohammed, the Secretary General of Kenya Red Cross,
Yeah.
and the esteemed volunteers. The winners came from different backgrounds. We sent the call for nomination out there to the public, and we got close to 2,000 applications, and the judging panel, we got people from the UN, government, organizations.
Hey, you people
we
mumejipanga.
did our best.
You
to
should
show
you
the
should always be
volunteers.
the ones organizing, functions for the government, because I attended it and I saw the kind of mobilization that you did.
Yes.
So just give us one last statement. What is that motivation you want to give to Kenyans, especially young Kenyans?
Yes.
What's the one statement that you would say to a young Kenyan who still says, I wouldn't volunteer, it's not my thing? What would you tell them?
I will tell them about our theme for this year. Our theme for every year is given by the UN during the celebration of the IVD, International Volunteers Day.
Yes.
Our theme for this year says, let us volunteer now for our common future.
Wow.
Because if we don't do it today, we will still be forced to do it somehow.
Tomorrow. Yes.
Things like climate action, climate change, things to do
Drugs and alcohol
with drugs
abuse.
and alcohol.
Mental
if
health.
we don't volunteer today to support, to create a better world for tomorrow,
We will
for all
have
of
to
us,
deal with it
we
later.
will have still to deal
And
with
it will be worse
So
later.
our theme is, let us volunteer today for our common future.
Wow, guys, I do not know if after this you will still not have been convinced about volunteerism, because I personally I am convinced. And just to let you know, one of the organizations that I closely relate to is going to be doing something on the 16 days of activism. We'll be donating sanitary towels to vulnerable girls in Isili on 15th. And if you want to join us, you know where to find me. I'm Ruth Ambogo on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Ruth Ambogo. And today the conversation was about volunteerism and why you should volunteer. And our guest today was an amazing gentleman, he's still here, agenda, an amazing gentleman by the name Meshack Odede, who is the chairperson of VIO Society Kenya. I hope that this conversation led you to say that indeed I want to be a volunteer. Indeed, I want to form my own organization or CBO that shall volunteer, because what we do here is we have conversations that inspire what, Odede?
Greatness.
See you next time. Till next time, I'm Ruth Ambogo, and this is #Vijana Vital Voices.
Icon Radio.